Some of the worst atrocities of World War II didn't happen in Europe. They didn't happen in the shadow of Berlin. They didn't happen inside Nazi camps. They happened thousands of miles away, across Asia, far from the history most Americans grew up learning. Entire cities were swallowed by violence. Prisoners vanished behind barbed wire. Civilians were trapped in a storm they never saw coming. For decades, much of this story remained in the background of Western memory. So here's the question: if World War II shaped the modern world, why don't we talk about this as much in America? To understand that question, we have to go back to the beginning. When Americans think of World War II, many picture the beaches of Normandy, the Battle of the Bulge, or the liberation of Europe. But long before US troops landed in France, Imperial Japan had already been at war in Asia. In the 1930s, Japan was rising as a powerful military empire. Its leaders believed expansion was the key to survival and dominance. One by one, territories fell under Japanese control: Manchuria, large parts of China, and eventually vast stretches of Southeast Asia. Then, on December 7, 1941, everything changed for the United States. The attack on Pearl Harbor attack pulled America fully into the global conflict. Overnight, the Pacific became a battlefield. Young American men enlisted. Factories roared to life. The nation mobilized for total war. But while America fought across the Pacific, something far darker was happening across Asia. In December 1937, Japanese forces captured the Chinese city of Nanjing. What followed became known as the Nanjing Massacre. For 6 weeks, the city became a nightmare. Historical estimates suggest that between 200,000 and 300,000 civilians and disarmed soldiers were killed. Homes were looted. Entire neighborhoods were destroyed. Widespread assaults were reported by survivors and foreign observers who remained in the city. Diaries from the time describe streets filled with fear, families hiding in basements, parents trying to shield their children from chaos. This wasn't a battle between two armies in open combat. It was violence directed at civilians trapped in a conquered city. For many in China, Nanjing became a symbol, a wound carried across generations. And yet, for decades, this chapter remained far less discussed in American classrooms than events unfolding in Europe. But Nanjing was not the only dark secret of the Pacific War. Hidden in remote facilities in occupied China was a covert operation known as Unit 731. Officially, it was a research unit. In reality, it conducted some of the most disturbing human experiments of the war. Prisoners were subjected to biological testing. Diseases such as plague and cholera were studied not only in laboratories, but on living human beings. There were experiments designed to test the limits of the human body under extreme conditions. It was science stripped of ethics, research without consent, medicine turned into a weapon. After the war, many expected sweeping prosecutions similar to the Nuremberg trials in Europe. But history took a complicated turn. Some leaders connected to Unit 731 reportedly received immunity in exchange for sharing research data with the United States. At the dawn of the Cold War, intelligence and scientific advantage became priorities. Justice, for some victims, felt incomplete. These decisions remain controversial to this day, a reminder that war's aftermath is rarely simple. And for American families, the brutality of the Pacific War was not distant. In 1942, after the fall of the Philippines, tens of thousands of American and Filipino soldiers were captured. What followed became known as the Bataan Death March. Exhausted, starving, and dehydrated, prisoners were forced to march for miles under the tropical sun. Those who fell behind were often beaten or left behind. Thousands did not survive the journey. These were American sons, brothers, fathers. Their letters home stopped coming. Their families waited without answers. For the United States, Bataan became a symbol of sacrifice and endurance. It hardened resolve. It fueled the determination to fight on across the Pacific, from Guadalcanal to Iwo Jima. But suffering extended beyond soldiers. Across occupied territories, another system operated in the shadows, one that would echo painfully for decades. It came to be known as the Comfort Women System. Women and girls from Korea, China, the Philippines, and other regions were forced into sexual slavery to serve Japanese troops. Many were deceived. Others were taken against their will. Most were teenagers. 4 years after the war, many survivors remained silent, carrying trauma in private. When some finally spoke publicly in the late 20th century, their testimonies reshaped global conversations about wartime sexual violence. This was not simply a byproduct of chaos. It was an organized system, one that left deep scars across Asia. Given the scale of these events, a question naturally emerges. Why is this history less central in American memory? Part of the answer lies in geopolitics. After 1945, the world quickly shifted into a new conflict, the Cold War. The United States needed allies in Asia. Japan, devastated by atomic bombings and occupation, became a key strategic partner against Soviet influence. Rebuilding Japan's economy and stabilizing the region became priorities. Over time, the former enemy transformed into one of America's closest allies. Meanwhile, American education and media focused heavily on the European theater, on Hitler, the Holocaust, and the liberation of concentration camps. These horrors rightly demanded attention, but the Pacific story, complex and politically sensitive, often received less detailed coverage. This doesn't mean it was erased, but it was not always emphasized. History is shaped not only by what happened, but by what nations choose to remember. Today, modern Japan is a democratic nation with a vibrant culture, global influence, and close ties to the United States. Generations have grown up far removed from the militarism of the 1930s and 1940s. There have been official apologies from Japanese leaders over the decades. Some statements expressed deep remorse. Others sparked debate over wording and sincerity. Memorials stand in some places, while controversies over textbooks and historical interpretation continue in others. Across East Asia, memories of the war still influence diplomatic tensions. But it is crucial to separate the actions of imperial military leaders from the people of modern Japan. Nations evolve. Governments change. Generations move forward. The story of Japanese war crimes in World War II is not about fueling hatred. It is about understanding the full picture of a global conflict that reshaped humanity. Because the Pacific War was not only aircraft carriers and island battles. It was cities like Nanjing. It was prisoners marching in Bataan. It was secret laboratories hidden from the world. It was young women whose voices were ignored for decades. History isn't about blame. It's about memory. And memory is how we prevent the next war. When we widen our lens beyond Europe, we see that World War II was truly global, and that suffering crossed oceans, languages, and cultures. The Pacific War was not just battles at sea. It was humans suffering on an unimaginable scale. And remembering all of it, not just the parts most familiar, is one way we honor those who lived through it. Because the past does not disappear. It waits to be remembered.